Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the seventh episode in our webinar series. Sorry, the sixth episode in our webinar series. Just going to give about another 3 or 4 minutes for people to join, and we'll then kick off today's presentation. So please just bear with us for another 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so once again, everyone, welcome. My name is Gavin Vandenberg. I head up the US Africa Trade Desk. And joining me today is two colleagues from the retail industry. And we're going to be covering a series of topics. And some of them are particularly relevant to what retailers are looking for in potential suppliers. And we're also going to cover some important topics today that are focused on small and medium enterprises. We're going to give you a couple of key insights into the retail industry. And we've got two great experts that are going to be talking across the topics. So I'd like to introduce everybody, first of all, to Michael Jett. Michael Jett is the chairman and co-founder of Yak Shack. He's formerly Kroger Enterprise Produce ad planning analyst, also the multicultural category manager for Kroger's Go Fresh, Go Local Supplier Accelerator Program. Currently supports domestic and international supply chain infrastructure zones, and is also the national ambassador for autism in the workplace. So Michael's pretty well versed in storytelling, and I'm going to allow Michael just quickly 1 minute to introduce himself. Over to you, Michael.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Jett, and I am a retail readiness expert, taking small business owners and integrating them into anchor retail. Do that through various means, such as performing the level of readiness. So how ready are you to be able to enter retail? And I do that in 7 markets here domestically and then internationally on the continent of Africa, thanks to organizations such as US African Trade Desk.
Gavin, I think you're on mute.
Apologies. Thanks, Sue, for catching that. Moving over, another esteemed guest today, we've got Jason Resner. Jason now runs a consultancy firm, 30-year veteran in the retail industry, worked across numerous categories, worked across numerous retailers here in the United States. And one of the gentlemen who actually gave me my start in US retail some 15 or 20 years ago. So I know Jason pretty well, and I think he's going to be a great addition to providing a little bit of insight into what retailers expect and helping us all going forward in nurturing the relationships that we establish with retailers. So, Jason, if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Thanks, Gavin. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be a part of this and glad to be here helping. And yeah, Gavin, time flies when you're having fun. It's been a while. But yes, as Gavin mentioned, I have over 30 years on the retail side of the business. I've worked with a multitude of different type of grocery retail chains, from national scope, from Albertsons and Super Value, to strong regional players such as Northeast Grocers, Price Chopper, Market 32, Jewel Osco and specialty niche as well, such as Fresh Time and some of the more natural organic type establishments, and really have a broad base of scope from the operation side as well as the marketing and merchandising side, and really have run the gamut, so to speak, throughout different aspects of the grocery industry and touched a lot of different parts. So happy to help continue to grow this portion of the business for everybody.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks very much for that. So I thought what it would be important today is to kind of give everybody a little bit of insight into the scale of the US retail sector. So let's have a look at, first of all, kicking off on what the actual market size is. This year, the retail industry is valued at approximately 7.1 trillion. It's one of the largest, well, it not is one of the largest, it is the largest retail sector here in the United States. We are, however, seeing a significant trend across to e-commerce, and that's over 20% of retail sales is now coming from online channels with a growing integration of both physical and digital experiences. So that's not just purely having a product sold on Amazon, it's the interaction of a potential customer directly with the retailer through the retailer's e-commerce platform, and then either doing in-store pickup or delivery. So the grocery markets, sorry, first of all, employment. The retail sector here in the United States employs nearly 30 million people. It's the largest sector of employment in the United States other than the US government itself. From a grocery market size, grocery kind of accounts for 13% of retail sales. So approximately $920 billion is driven by fresh foods and healthy trends. In the top retailers by market share, I think the names are synonymous with everybody. You've got the likes of Walmart, Kroger, and Albertsons, which dominate over 50% of the grocery markets, with Walmart leading the market share. A lot of you might be aware that there is ongoing discussions between Albertsons and Kroger for a merger, and we'll get some more information on that later on this year or early part of 2025. So the experts that we have on today's webinar are well versed in working with these large retailers. But as Jason alluded to, it's also very, very critically important for us to work with a lot of the smaller retailers, smaller scale retailers, and regional retailers, because that allows us to run a lot of trials and tests with SME type products, etc. So one of the topics that we covered in one of our previous webinars that I would like to re-emphasize to everybody today is just having a look at how a US customer is actually shopping at the moment. So on the screen, you will see the dynamics of where a US shopper is actually going to, whether it's convenience from pickup and delivery, or whether it's something that they specifically focus on going to a store and buying it in a physical brick and mortar store. So in other words, they do not have enough consumer confidence to purchase a lot of that product online yet. So if you have a look on the far left-hand side of your screen, something that is shelf stable, and that's where what we would categorize as pantry essentials. So that's your cooking oils, your spices, anything that would really go into your pantry. You tend to find that the majority of US consumers are pretty comfortable. So over 82% of the consumers are pretty comfortable to actually just buy that through an online platform. Conversely, when you start to move across to the right-hand side of the screen and start having a look at items like fresh seafoods, but then also your home appliances, gifts, etc., fresh produce, freshly prepared products, fresh meat, fresh deli, fresh bakery. So anything that's kind of going to fall into that fresh category, refresh category, or something that might be a quick grab and go type convenience item, you tend to find that the majority of customers are much more comfortable to actually shop in store. And this is where the relationship with your retail partner becomes so critically important. It is extremely important for you to have a very clear understanding of what your retailer's expectations are of you as a supplier. So you need to know their business just as well as what they actually know their business themselves. So a couple of insights into really what the trends are that are out there at the moment. So your online trend, as I mentioned to you earlier, the omni-channel retailing element. Here you've got an example of Kroger's expansion into online ordering and in-store pickup. So you can literally order your product online. You have somebody within a Kroger store that actually picks and packs it, and then you'll find it at the entrance to the store. You can actually just pick it up, or alternatively, they've even got dedicated parking spaces outside of the Kroger stores, and you can literally pull your car in and call a number, and somebody will actually bring your package out to you. A good case study in this example is Albertsons. Albertsons increased their digital sales by 276% through improving their online application and personalizing their shopping experiences. We live in an age of digital transformation. So the role of AI, artificial intelligence, etc., IoT in inventory and supply chain management is becoming so critically important. So you have to know what the retailer is, what platforms the retailer is using in order to ensure that you've got sufficient replenishment stock available. And here we have a case study where Walmart's automated distribution centers are now starting to improve product freshness and availability. So they're moving into assisting in that, moving that dial from the left-hand side of the screen that you saw earlier across more towards the center by getting customers to grow their confidence in purchasing fresh product online. Very, very key is personalization in terms of grocery. And that's leveraging customer data to personalize offers. Case study here that I want to chat to you about is Whole Foods Prime member discounts, right? So you probably know that Amazon purchased Whole Foods. So when you go into Whole Foods, as an example, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you actually get discounts of all of the products that you buy in store. What that does is it allows the artificial intelligence to start personalizing items that you tend to buy more often, and also having a look at items that is a recommendation for you to purchase. We also then need to focus a little bit on consumer behavior shifts. And here, the demand for health, wellness, and sustainable products is growing exponentially. Everybody, I think, needs to, or everybody is fully aware of the results of the general elections here in the United States over the last 24 to 48 hours. What we're going to see is a significant shift in looking for new resources and looking for stable supply lines because of the tariffs that are going to be imposed on product that is coming in from the East. So we as African suppliers need to stand ready to capitalize on these opportunities as they start coming through. So for those of you that are working with various USAID missions, the ATI project, Prosper Africa, etc., we're going to be starting to push through a significant amount of demand alerts. Those demand alerts are going to trigger an urgent need or a near-term need to fill a void that we've identified in a retailer's supply chain. And it would be critical to be able to react on those. We will publish some of those demands up on our website, so continuously have a look at it, or communicate directly with your USATD regional rep, or communicate directly with your USAID or ATI regional contact. So a case study on the shift in consumer habits is Publix and Sprouts have really started to focus on sustainable organic sourcing. We know that we check all of those boxes with the majority of suppliers out of Africa. So again, emphasizing the importance of your development of your unique selling proposition. You need to very clearly understand who you are selling to, what drives your target customer, and what are the pain points that your retailer is actually experiencing. So the US Africa Trade Desk is going to be able to assist you in understanding the consumer behavior that we've just spoken about. Lean on us for a little bit of research in terms of design. The qualitative data is critically important, and the quantitative data is obviously very important, as well as running a competitive analysis. So when we run a due diligence or our retail activation team has a meeting with any potential supplier out of Africa, we focus essentially on the USP. Now, that then checks the box of capacity, capability, and cost. So we want to ensure that we set you up for success and we meet the retailer's expectations. So we don't want to offer a product to a retailer that is not cost competitive, nor do we want to offer products to a retailer that has an erratic supply chain, nor do we want to offer a retailer an item that you don't have the actual capacity to supply. A lot of the retailers, and a big national retailer like Kroger included, will definitely have a look at items that we can put into a specific zone or a specific profile of stores. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be excluded if you can't supply all 2,600 stores. Analyze the data all the time. As I said, it's difficult enough to get onto shelf. It's even harder to stay on shelf. So have a look at the reports that are coming through. Have a look at how successful your product is and start to make proactive decisions. So some of the expectations from retailers is your product quality and innovation needs to continuously be relevant, okay? And here you have a look at a case study of a retailer like Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's has differentiated their private label products, leading to a very dedicated customer base. It's almost like a Trader Joe's shopper is a cult. People will drive 25, 30 miles to go to a Trader Joe's because they've just got such high confidence level in the Trader Joe's private label product. Reliability in supply chains is critically important as well. And, here you've got somebody like Aldi, and Aldi has developed partnerships with reliable suppliers with a specific focus on maintaining low prices and steady stock inventory levels. Also, collaborative partnerships. So, and we refer to that sometimes as cross-merchandising. So if you have a look at what Pepsi did with Kroger, you've got data sharing between Kroger's 8451 platform and Pepsi's supply capacity. And what that does is it actually helps optimize inventory management and inventory levels. So yes, are we a PepsiCo? No, we're not, but we do have access to the data from a Kroger 8451 platform, and that data is critically important to help set us up as African suppliers to meet the expectations of a US retailer. And then adaptability is critically important. Okay. We need to, Unilever is a classic example of that. So Unilever can adapt their products to a specific market. And what we have the ability to do from Africa is allow for quick product adjustments. So based on the information flow that is coming back on something like packaging design or something like pack sizes, et cetera, that is where it becomes very, very critically important for us as African suppliers to be able to adapt to what the market actually needs. And then obviously critical is best practices for supplier success. And here you've got, again, Kroger as our benchmark. Regular, transparent communications build strong partnership. You've also got Costco's commitment to open communication and trust within suppliers. And that trust element is really something that I want to harp on. It's your responsibility to build the retailer's trust, and that comes in the trust of your ability to actually execute when you start getting these purchase orders. And then, moving on, I would now like to introduce Michael. And Michael, I'm going to hand over to you and start the presentation. So I'm just going to pause it and you can tell me when you're ready.
All right. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think it's super important. And thank you, Gavin, for making a space to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusiveness within grocery retail. Very appreciative of that. Looking at that from the aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion, why is that important, and why is it important to the retailer? It's important to the retailer because the retailer, generally, especially a U.S. anchor retailer, they're spread across the nation, and within the nation, they service various communities, and there are different individuals within that community. And when you think about foot traffic, a consumer is more likely to shop where they feel seen. And when you think about feeling seen, when you are on the grocery store shelf, you want to know that the same items that you enjoy are available to you. And diversity, equity, and inclusion is a very important part of that. Benefits for African suppliers and minority suppliers. How exactly does the DE&I initiatives that grocery retailers provide, what is that relief? Well, the benefit of being a diverse or a minority supplier is certain pathways are cut out for you, such as being able to look at a discount of slotting fees, net payment terms. When we think about net payment terms, often that determines how fast we can turn around and pay our employees, but also our ability to manufacture the next purchase order. As we look at, as we talk about that route to market, as Gavin mentioned, talking about being able for the retailer to trust that once you get the yes, that you will be able to then fulfill that. A lot of suppliers might assume that once I get the purchase order, I'm in the clear. But once you get the purchase order, that's when multiple steps actually kick in. And that's what Yakshak's Retail Accelerator program with the U.S. African Trade Desk enables. You as a supplier being able to know be able to have that purchase order, but then be able to follow the key steps to make sure your product makes it on time and is able to scale on the shelf. And that's not a problem. So then we think about aligning supplier goals with DE&I initiatives. Well, we just talked about the aspect of slotting fees as well as commodity. We also there are commodity interest as well as thinking about the aspect of the cost for you as a vendor being able to come and retail. That cost can range from $500 to $20,000, depending on the various certifications that you have to be able to certifications, insurance, and just the different expenses. And aligning yourself as a supplier with where that retailer goes can also, once again, cut down and reduce that. The growing demand for diverse products. We talked about the fact that there are many types of residents throughout America. And those residents come from all places around the world, and their taste buds are, their taste buds are vast. It really is about you have one person that might like something extremely spicy, another person refuses that. So being able to have products on the shelf that is inviting to all consumers is very important. And as we think about the DE&I success stories for retail, Gavin, I would love to be able to give U.S. African Trade Desk a special shout out for the work that you all have done, especially at the Fancy Food Show, and being able to garner a purchase order contract valuing $56 million for 700 containers of table grapes. When we think about that as a very successful story, especially when we think about how many commodities operate within grocery retail, and that's just one commodity. So that's a great success story in regards to those African suppliers. And the Yak Shack mentorship for supplier success, it is going to be very important as we walk through and educate you on what to expect once you talk to your category manager or buyer. And depending on your organization you're working with, you could be talking to a category manager. That category manager is actually over the buyers and does the maintenance for the entire that entire commodity and the sub commodities under it. And then the buyer that is going to be purchasing that. Yak Shack also is going to prepare you for how to be able to engage with your brokers and to create a transparent route to market so that once you have that purchase order, from purchase order to shelf is seamless. And the role of storytelling is extremely important when you think about not just for your retailer, but for that U.S. consumer. That U.S. consumer wants to be educated on who you are, the products that you have, where those products come from, and the supply chain within that product. We all know if we're scrolling on Instagram or watching the Insider, we get to have insights on backstories of brands and how they make it to the market. And that encourages us to be able to be educated and know how to shop and utilize those products. And being able to overcome barriers to the entry for minorities is super important. And let's look at some of these typical challenges. A lot of times a supplier might not understand exactly what the buyer is demanding of them. There's a lot of fundamental language that is traditionally not accessible through ChatGPT or a general consultant. It truly does take experts to be able to break those barriers. There are multiple bottlenecks and roadblocks in entering grocery retail, not just from the fulfillment side, but from the communication side for you to know exactly what to do next. It is your retailer's job to prepare you to be able to fulfill that purchase order, but it is not the retailer's job to hold your hand through that. That is what your brokers in organizations such as U.S. African Trade Desk and Yak Shack is here for. And for as far as the future for DE&I, it's only going to expand once again, just as African trade is expanding, so are the residents as well. So when you think about that, you think about as more generations come online, you're going to have more individuals that's going to be demanding diverse, equitable initiatives for that as well. So huge opportunity, Gavin.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate those insights. And I think a lot of African suppliers will be able to capitalize on product coming from Africa and communicating these great stories of where our products come from, the community development that goes into actually handling and growing and cultivating a lot of these products, and telling the story, getting that story across to retailers. I'd just like to highlight something here quickly before I move on. We've left a little bit of time towards the end of today's session, specifically for you to ask questions directly to Michael, as well as to Jason, to be able to help, maybe answer some of the questions pretty quickly. So if you do have some questions, let's start putting them into the chat. And then what Sue will do is she'll come across to everybody one by one as we filter through those questions, and you can direct your questions either directly to Michael or Jason or myself. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next series of topics that we would like to discuss. And this is where Jason's going to take over. I'm going to put up onto the screen 10 key topics which Jason is going to talk to. So over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Gavin. Really nice job, Michael. Diversification of the supplier network and unique suppliers has really been growing within the retail industry in the United States here. So very exciting stuff. As Gavin had mentioned, going into the retail side of the business, overall execution, communication, innovation very sums up what all suppliers should be looking to do to help the retail side of the business and become a true strategic partner. So as Gavin has a couple of the initial chevrons up, execution is a key driver of success. Well, execution usually solely falls on the retailer and their operations team. The execution of bringing a product from point A to point B to finally point C also would stem in your court as well, to make sure that you're owning the execution part to achieve success, from how to get the suppliers, how to get the retailers the supply they need when they need it. So the execution model kind of is all encompassing. Importance of open communication is a direct segue to execution. Open lines of communication and regular updates and really growing that relationship is key, as Gavin had mentioned before. And that really goes into the transparency too. If there's an issue, communicate it. The hope's not a strategy that issues will go away. Transparency is very key to fostering a collaborative relationship with retailers. Retailers want to know good things and bad things when they're happening. Innovative product development, as I'll get into this a little bit more on some of the next slides for the consumer demographics, but innovation's key. Staying on, keeping your finger on the pulse of the business with what's happening. What are not only some existing trends, but what are some emerging trends? It's really essential to remain relevant. When you get into some of the produce world, what are some key seasonal attributes of fruits and vegetables or uniqueness that might be emerging somewhere that you would want to bring that kind of information to the retailers? And then adaptability to changing market conditions. on the center store, more dry goods side, this is important, but not as important when you get into the produce, meat, deli, seafood aspects of the business. Being able to adapt to changing market conditions and have a plan B ready, even if you don't need it, is key. Maintaining consistent delivery standards. The more robust you get into your customer base on the U.S. side for retailers, each of them may have a different set of standards, but quality specifications are key. Understanding what those are really important. So those should always be questions that the group is asking. What are the quality specifications? What are the requirements to make sure that you're abiding by them with the goods that are being sold? Data-driven insights. That is kind of goes into that adaptability and innovation. Understanding trends is really crucial. The consumer-centric innovation, there'll be a little bit more deeper dives in the upcoming slides, but really staying relevant to that digital personalization and product relevance is going to continue to grow, as Gavin had mentioned earlier. And suppliers that can bring this type of information as part of the introduction or the sell will really help them become or help you become more consistent strategic suppliers. Leveraging technology, the whole IT, AI, that's going to continue to evolve, and making sure that tech tools that you have can streamline the logistics process, as well as forecasting, as well as information being shared with the end customer through their marketing department, and then really staying relevant in a competitive market. Gavin had mentioned the cost implications. Price has historically been the leading determining factor for the grocery industry of how consumers make their decisions, but that's not the only deciding factor. Innovation, quality, differentiation is key. So being able to bring that to consumers, your customers, to bring to those consumers is important. As Gavin mentioned, understand the marketplace and consumer demographics are key to help you engage your targeted customers, especially engaging with marketing teams and understanding the customer of tomorrow. And these next few slides will really dig into how the customer landscape is targeted to be segmented over the next decade. And as you see here on the slide that's up, the current and future evolution of suppliers is really broken out into 6 main segments. These different demographic shifts are from the older, 65 and up, kind of referred to as some of the baby boomer generation, more diverse. Really, that is where the changing in the average white Caucasian consumer that historically more so dominated is really expected to shrink. When you get into some of the multiracial different impacts to the country, that is going to help influence that multicultural shift to more African producers can really capitalize on these changes, as the overall African supply chain has a lot of diverse opportunities just from goods that really aren't that easily accessible in the United States. Facing an economic divergence, when you look at where the U.S. has gone, and especially with, as Gavin had mentioned, the more recent administration shift, by strategically targeting premium as well as value-orientated markets and making kind of a one-stop shop to end users on the retail side of offering both, is really something that can really benefit to leverage these trends. And additionally, as mentioned here, emphasizing the sustainability is really, from an ethical production standpoint, really key. And as you engage with your customers, making sure there's a story to tell, and there's a big story to tell with a lot of what the African Trade Desk can offer. And that is where, as Gavin had mentioned, talking with your brokers, your retailers, and how to tell the story, what's the story behind the product, is really going to help differentiate you versus a lot of other suppliers attempting to sell the same things. As you get into generational changes, so more likely one-person households or multi-generational households, it's not the same historic nuclear family that we looked at over the last decade or two. it's changing. So more 1 to 2 person. And then there's also the shifts in different regional aspects of multi-generational as well as caretakers being more focused. So the cultural relevance and a range of packaging options, not everyone wants a value pack, and having the different options to be able to show customers on what African producers can leverage is very important. The millennial generations, I wish I could say I was part of that because it would make me younger, but I'm not. But what's one of the really interesting dynamics here is the millennials are really going to change from a population standpoint. Baby boomers used to be, and somewhat currently are, but it's going to change, the bread and butter of the pocketbook for America. Millennials are approaching their peak. So again, when you look at their prime spending years, they're in it. They're in it now. But if you only plan for today, you'll only be successful for today. And looking at the influence on the retail landscape as we get into the Gen Zs, and there's a lot of conversations about the Gen Z demographic, but they are definitely expected to surpass the millennials in the upcoming years. And this will be a major generational shift for the United States, because when you look at the historic bread and butter of the baby boomers that have really built a lot of the economy, Gen Zs are dramatically different, but their buying power is going to be huge. So becoming the ability to be an expert on targeting Gen Zs today, but more importantly tomorrow, on how to approach from a marketing standpoint as well as a diversification of products to sell is going to be key, as their economic power is going to continue to grow and eventually be responsible for supporting the millennials and the remaining baby boomer generations.
Jason, thanks very much. That was awesome. Gave a lot of insight into what you as a retail buyer actually expects from a supplier and from a producer out of Africa. It's very encouraging for us as the U.S. Africa Trade Desk to be working with a multitude of suppliers out of Africa that have come through to us through whether it be a direct connection from Prosper Africa, USAID, some of the American Chambers of Commerce, the ATI buy-in activities. So again, I really encourage everybody to work very, very closely with your regional reps. And if it's somebody that, or if it's a contact person that you're not 100% sure of, please reach out to us at the U.S. Africa Trade Desk, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to put you in contact with the right person. So, Sue, I don't know if you've got any questions in the chat. We're going to open up the floor now to anybody who would like to ask questions either directly to Jason or to Michael, or maybe you want to ask questions to both. So, Sue, can you drive that, please?
Yes, Gavin, thank you very much. So far, we don't have any queries or questions in either the chat or the Q&A section. So if anybody would like to ask these lovely gentlemen any questions, please do let me know and I'll give you the floor.
And Gavin, while we wait for that, if I can talk on briefly, again, the importance of storytelling, do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Another key part about storytelling is why it's so important is when you're pitching your product to go on the shelf, remember that grocery retail shelves are limited as well, even if they're going to just be going on a display. When you're pitching for your product to enter into that grocery retailer, you're actually pitching most likely to remove a product because of that limited real estate space. And you want to think about your shelf space. Each shelf tag, think about that area as real estate, and think about, we as a consumer, you might see a price of $3.99 on that shelf tag, but the retailer sees a price of millions of dollars for that. And it is your job as a supplier or vendor to encourage the foot traffic to make sure that that real estate rent gets paid, and that rent for that mortgage is that individual scan. So you really want to be very detailed about what your story is and why your product deserves to be on the shelf versus what's currently on the shelf, or as Jason brought out, to be able to look at the other competition. What is their story? And it's ultimately going to come down to your supply chain sustainability and the story and how it impacts the consumer and your retailer.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. If I could just piggyback on that a little bit. One of the things that the storytelling is key, because as Michael mentioned, space to sales is critical for the retail side of the business from an organization. And as Michael had mentioned, that spot is like liquid gold to a lot of retailers. And as Gavin had mentioned before, with different retailers have different slotting recommendation or requirements. But the storytelling is key. And one thing I will emphasize is I've worked with a lot of different organizations. And one thing that I found that's consistent from the terminology gets a little bit confusing too. So, between buyer or sales manager or category manager, that vernacular changes across a lot of the retailers. But one thing that's been consistent is the bridge to marketing. And oftentimes, unfortunately, the person a supplier is talking to, if it's the true buyer who's responsible for the logistics of creating POs and getting product and managing inventory, that's not often the category manager or sales manager that's required for merchandising and price and item strategies. And to convolute it even more, that's not the person that controls the digital or e-commerce. So one thing that I would very much recommend to anyone selling into any organization is you might have a certain salesperson or account representative that's going to sell product and engage to build that relationship. But there should also be a marketing element of the organizations. And even in introduction meetings, always ask the question, who's your director of marketing? Who's your e-commerce? Because oftentimes the person you're talking to on the retail side is not that person. Amen. And there's a lot of opportunity that I've seen in the past with a lot of South American companies that establish that brand. Peruvian fruit, a lot of Colombian items, grapes come to mind. Having that ability to advertise the African Trade Desk logo is something that's should be important, as well as sometimes it's important to the retailer. So engaging with the marketing team, asking about marketing options, that's really going to get you a lot of the direct marketing innovation to target specific consumers with certain products. So often ask the question when you're engaging, can we meet with your marketing team to also develop digital and e-commerce strategies?
Jason, that was so important to be able to call out. I often talk to suppliers if I have especially if it's a trauma call. I get a lot of trauma calls, especially in the retail readiness side. When it comes to, they say, but I've already talked to the category manager. I'm not understanding what else they want from me, or the buyer liked my item, but I'm still not getting anywhere. I don't know where am I going on the planogram? So, that's the floor set. And it is about, that's why it's also important to really work with your broker. And when you are negotiating with your broker and picking your broker, you want to ask your broker, what is their relationship with the individuals that are on the desk within the department that you want to go to? Because just because you have a meat and seafood item doesn't mean you just go to a broker that knows meat and seafood. Do they understand that particular stakeholder's current quarter wants and their future needs?
Yeah, collaborative goal building is key for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Sue, before you open up the floor to anybody that wants to ask questions, I'd like to highlight here that the US Africa Trade Desk is not just a facilitator of introductions into retailers. One of the main services that we provide is we actually the vendor of record for a significant amount of these actual retailers. So when Michael and Jason refer to as brokers, we as the US Africa Trade Desk can actually fill that gap for you okay? And we can help nurture you right through from from taking custody over your product in Africa, actually to act on the shelf, and then managing that product on the shelf to make sure that we keep the space available and your product relevant. So, Sue, let's go to some questions.
Okay, so I've got a Mr., Ms., or Mrs. Chatata with their hand up. I'm going to give you your mic access. Hello?
You still have them on mute, Sue.
I don't have them on mute.
They would need to unmute on their side then.
Yes, they would. While we wait for that question, there is a question in our Q&A section from Iban Faludu regarding Whole Foods. He just wanted to reach out asking if it was a question towards you, Gavin.
Sure, let's have a look at the question. Processor of coconuts. Shared with the group. Okay, so if we had a conversation at the Summer Fancy Food Show, I encourage you to work through the US Africa Trade Desk link. There is a process that we follow where once you join the network, you should receive a series of documents from us. The most important one is obviously the non-disclosure agreement, because that protects any information that we are required to gather from you in order to do a due diligence. And that then moves over to our retail activation team. So Ibn, do me a favor, if you haven't heard from our retail activation team or you're missing some information, please feel free to shoot me an email directly or put your email address in this chat, and I'll have somebody follow up for you on that straight away. I'm going to share on screen just while we wait for other potential questions. On the screen over here, you can see who the contact details are, both for our US office as well as our Mauritius office. And if you scan the QR code utilizing your cell phone, it'll actually take you to the web link that allows you to join our network and gives you a little bit of background information on the trade desk itself. Also, feel free to reach out directly to us using the contact form on the US Africa Trade Desk website as well. Sue, any other questions that might have come through? See somebody dropped off.
No other questions have come through as yet.
Okay, great. So we're kind of running towards our time limit today. So I'd just like to thank everybody that participated. I have seen some questions asking whether or not today's webinar will be available to email. We are going to publish it on our website. So a recording will be available on the website. And feel free to download that and share it with everybody. I'm going to ask Michael, first of all, just to wrap up from his side and then take it over to Jason. So over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Gavin. Once again, I just want to drive home to all suppliers, whether you're a supplier, a consultant, retailer, or stakeholder, know your next steps. It is super crucial. Anchor retail, it is not a scary place if you understand your route to market. Rely on your experts. While there is a lot of innovation in grocery retail and the supply chain operates in a certain way. So being able to distinguish between how you like to operate and where you would like to go as a supplier versus how the industry works and the standards is super crucial. So that's why I look forward to being able to provide to the different suppliers and stakeholders here with US African Trade Desk.
Thanks very much, Michael. Jason, over to you to wrap up.
I think really from an execution standpoint on the grocery retail side, the three main areas are staying relevant, transparency with your retail partners and the open communication aspect of it, and just asking questions. What are the goals? What are some combined goals you could create? What are their budgets? What are your budgets? What are the expectations? Making it a collaborative aspect of both having stake in the game to achieve common goals is always key. And as a retailer, they want to know that a supplier is in it with them. They want to know what your asks and aspirations are, as you should ask what their asks and aspirations are. So keeping those lines of communication open and staying transparent are key. And the U.S. African Trade Desk and Gavin and the team he leads is experts at helping bring that relationship building process together.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the kind words. And to everybody that attended today's webinar, thank you very much for your attendance. I hope you found the information useful. We do have one more webinar coming up that's going to close off the series of 7. For those of you that did miss the first 5, the publication is up on the website. Feel free to go through it at any time. And please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. As you can see, as part of the US Africa Trade Desk, we really have some special partners like Michael and Jason that we can reach out to for help and support, or we can put you in direct contact with them for you guys to actually start working with them hand in hand. So with that, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your attendance today. And we will wrap up, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.